The morning light filters through the blinds, slicing the room into bars of gold and shadow. My wife stirs, her hand reaching out for me, but I'm no longer beside her. I'm a ghost in the bathroom, letting the scalding water try to purge the guilt that's etched deep into my skin. I stare at the man in the mirror, the droplets tracing paths over my face like the tears I cannot allow myself to shed. He looks like me, but there's a hollowness in his eyes that wasn't there before. This man has a secret that festers in his chest, a dark blot on his soul. Breakfast is a quiet affair. My son chatters about school, about his friends, and I nod and smile, but my heart is elsewhere, tangled in a web of regret. Every time he mentions her son, my stomach churns. Their innocence, our children, unwittingly tied to the silent drama of their parents' making. My wife, she's beautiful this morning. She's always beautiful, but today there's a particular radiance about her that makes the guilt all the more suffocating. She's talking about her day, her plans, and I'm nodding along, but inside I'm screaming, choking on the lie of my continued silence. The day drags on. Work is a welcome distraction, but even the numbers and reports can't fully mask the undercurrent of my remorse. I see her sometimes, the other mom, at drop-off or pick-up, and our eyes meet a flash of shared guilt before we look away. We're actors on a stage, playing our parts for an audience who doesn't know the play is a tragedy. I throw myself into fatherhood, into being the man my family sees. I help with homework, play catch in the yard, read bedtime stories with more animation than I feel. I'm overcompensating, and I know it. But maybe if I'm a good enough father, a good enough husband, the scales will tip back to balance somehow. At night, when the house is quiet once more, I sit alone in the dark, the glow of my laptop the only light. I find myself on forums, anonymous confessions of infidelity staring back at me from the screen. I read stories of broken trust, of lives torn apart, and I feel a kinship with these faceless strangers. They, too, understand the crushing weight of guilt, the fear, the desire for redemption. I type out my story, fingers trembling, and hover over the post button. Sharing it feels like an admission, an opening of the floodgates I've kept closed so tightly. But there's a comfort in knowing that I'm not alone in this, that others have walked this path of self-imposed penance. The clock ticks on, and I close the laptop, the stories of strangers left unread. I can't bring myself to join their ranks, not yet. My confession remains a tightly coiled secret, one that I carry back to bed as I slip under the covers beside my wife. I watch her sleep, the rise and fall of her chest, a rhythm that once soothed me. Now, it's a reminder of what I've done, of the trust I've broken. I want to reach out, to hold her, to tell her everything, and beg for her forgiveness. But fear is a powerful silencer, and so I remain still, the architect of my own prison, living with the guilt of cheating. The silence of our bedroom is a canvas for my guilt. Each soft breath, my wife takes a brushstroke of the life I've stained. It's in these early hours, when the world is still and the darkness is a shroud, that my conscience roars the loudest, a relentless tide against the frail dam of my resolve. I've become an insomniac, a sentinel of sorrow who counts the ticks of the clock like a miser counts his coins. Each second is a reminder of the monumental mistake I've made, a mistake that hangs over me like a specter, its cold touch a stark contrast to the warmth of the bed I no longer feel I deserve. The affair was a tempest, sudden and fierce, tearing through the landscape of my moral compass and leaving me adrift in a sea of remorse. She was just a mom from our son's school, a familiar face in the crowd of play dates and PTA meetings. But familiarity bred a dangerous intimacy, a connection that spiraled beyond the innocent until we found ourselves entangled in the aftermath of our actions. The guilt is an omnipresent shadow, a second skin I can't shed. My wife, with her gentle smile and trusting eyes, doesn't deserve the deceit that now lies between us, like an uninvited guest at our family table. Every kind word from her feels like a shard of glass in my heart, every gesture of love, a heavy stone I carry in my stomach. The other woman and I, we've severed the tie that bound us in our moment of weakness. We vowed never to speak of what happened, to bury this secret beneath layers of normality and forced smiles. But guilt is a relentless hunter, and we are its prey, forever looking over our shoulders, forever wondering if this will be the day our sin is dragged into the glaring light of judgment. I wonder how many others out there are like me, living with the crushing weight of their choices, silently screaming for absolution in a world that seems oblivious to their internal turmoil. I wonder if they too lie next to their unwitting partners, the truth a heavy stone on their chests, the fear of discovery a constant whisper in their ears. The remorse I feel is a crucible, testing the very fibers of my being. I tell myself that I can carry this burden, that I can be the husband my wife believes me to be, that I can atone for my indiscretion through silent suffering and unwavering devotion. But the question remains, a gnawing doubt at the edge of my consciousness. Can one truly make amends for a sin that remains unseen, unheard, unspoken? As the first light of dawn creeps through the curtains, casting a pale glow on the woman I vowed to cherish and protect, I feel the weight of my betrayal more acutely than ever. I made a vow to her, a promise of fidelity and honesty, and I have shattered it with my own hands. I rise from the bed, careful not to disturb her peaceful slumber, and make my way to the refuge of the shower. The water cascades over me, but it offers no absolution, no cleansing of the guilt that clings to me like a second skin. And so, I brace myself for another day, another performance in the tragic play of my own making.